was dreaming of the past, and my heart was beating fast. I began to lose control. I began to lose control. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry that I made you cry. Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm just a jealous guy. Well, hey guys, this is Brad. Welcome to the Main Stage Music live stream this week. And you know, we had an excellent person, Brian, my boy Brian, who said, you know what you haven't done? You do all this guitar stuff. You haven't done anything about ukuleles. And he goes, and everybody needs a ukulele. And you know what? I can't hardly disagree with that, because we have a lot of, obviously, players, guitar players and whatnot in our area. And they're always looking for ways to, how do I say it, add to their repertoire and whatnot. Well, with ukulele, if you already play guitar, I'm going to show you today why a ukulele is a great idea to have. Now, first of all, one thing I want to let you guys know is that I am going to be using my phone here to answer any questions that you guys might have, okay? So we are, of course, welcoming comments if you guys have any questions about what we're going over, so on and so forth. Like the show, want to make some sort of little sarcastic remark or whatever, hey, that's perfectly fine. We welcome the comments. Feel free, bring them on, and so on. And this is also on YouTube, so if you're not already a YouTube subscriber and you're watching this on Facebook, we'll go over to YouTube and click like, because you can watch our shows there as well. So that being said, ukuleles. Now, I know that when I was a kid, you know, a ukulele was one of those, how do I say it, one of those kind of like joke instruments. I thought, well, who wants a ukulele? I mean, look, it's little, and it's like a toy, right? And then you might remember, I mean, if you're my age, you know, I'm in my mid-40s, your parents were making fun of this guy named Tiny Tim, okay? And Tiny Tim was this kind of joke guy back in the 1960s who's now being kind of heralded as an outsider artist, okay? But Tiny Tim had a really high-pitched falsetto voice and was known for this song called Tip Throw Through the Tulips with this ukulele. But he was a really big guy with this really goofy little ukulele and, of course, his ridiculous voice. That ruined the ukulele as anything that I wanted to do. And it was like that for a long time. But you might be surprised to know that the ukulele is you know what, I'm going to say a uniquely American instrument that that you guys really should check out. I'll give you a quick little rundown on the uke, okay? First of all, the ukulele means little flea or jumping flea or something like that in the traditional Hawaiian language. Hawaii was a pretty interesting little island, you know, cluster out in the Pacific, and you had a lot of people coming out to, sugar farmers primarily, coming out to Hawaii, even though it was a U.S. territory, and there was a Spanish and Portuguese style instrument called the machete, and it was kind of like a ukulele, but they thought it was really a cool little instrument, and so they made their variation on it, and that was where the ukulele was born. And of course, that jumping flea story, I can find it everywhere, but there's also some places that say that it doesn't really mean that. I had one place that said it meant little fingers. Regardless of what it means, it's designed to be little and fun and cute, okay? Well, the Hawaiian people really embraced it. Even the king and queen of Hawaii at the time, because it was a monarchy back in those days, played the ukulele, okay? It was the thing to do. And around the turn of the century, when people from the mainland U.S. started kind of getting more interested in this Hawaiian territory, well, then everybody wanted a ukulele, or a ukulele is what we like to call it. And by the 1920s, everybody in the U.S. wanted a ukulele. It was a huge deal. Now, one of the very first companies to make ukuleles was, you probably guessed it, from Hawaii, okay? And their name was Kamaka, okay? Kamaka is a family name, and they really made the first commercially available ukuleles, okay? Now, because you guys might know something about me, I'm a guitar and instrument collecting nerd, and I love the history of this stuff, if you didn't know that already. And I'll tell you what, I've got an original Kamaka ukulele. I've actually got a couple of them. And so I brought it with me to show you guys, okay? So this is one of the original Kamaka ukuleles, okay? Now the shape right here, they affectionately called the pineapple, okay? And you can probably guess why. Well, it is kind of shaped like a pineapple. Traditional ukuleles originally were made from koa wood, which is what this is. Koa wood only grows in Hawaii. Hey! And so they made these very traditional instruments shaped like a very traditional fruit out of a very traditional wood that you can only get from Hawaii. That is really neat. And of course, Kamaka is a family that was born, raised, and still lives in Hawaii. So this is an example of one of the original Kamaka ukuleles. This one right here is actually it's from the 1950s, but the very first ones were made in the 1920s. And they got a really nice sound, a very simple look. Nowadays, ukuleles come in all different shapes and sizes, all right? And so I brought some with me because, you know, this episode is really about showing you guys products that you may not know we have, or maybe you've been kind of curious about and then didn't really say anything about it. And so that's what, you know, this show is all about. So I brought with me the 3 basic sizes of ukulele. Now, technically there are, I guess you could say more than just 3 sizes, but these are the 3 primary sizes. Yeah, there's 2 of them. Look at that. Okay, so I brought with me 3 different brands. These are all models that we carry, okay? The first one here I brought is an example of a soprano ukulele, or a lot of people would think of this as like the original size of a ukulele, okay? Now this one is manufactured by Epiphone. Of course, Epiphone is a very well-known brand. They've been in business for over 140 years, and of course, just great stuff. Now this one isn't traditional like that little vintage guy I was showing you. This one's made from mahogany wood. They incorporate a lot of modern features on it, like the nice die-cast keys that are oil-filled. They're very smooth and stable. It has a nice little rope binding. And of course, the wood is from usually Africa or South America, not from Hawaii. But the soprano uke is the most traditional and most common one, okay? Now, ukuleles, you might think, well, I don't know how to tune that. I'm a guitar player. I don't really want to learn, you know, reinvent the wheel here. But would it surprise you to know that if you play guitar, you can already play the ukulele? Seriously. A ukulele has 4 strings instead of 6. So imagine your guitar. But imagine that the low 2 strings, so the low E and the low A string, were gone. And all you had was the last 4. That's basically how a ukulele is kind of tuned, at least in those rudiments. Now, the actual notes are slightly different. It's G, C, E, A, okay? But those shapes that you would play are the same, okay? Now we got the Chattanooga Choo Choo coming in the background, but turn to this other camera here so they can see a little bit closer. So like, for example, on a guitar, you might play a D chord. You'd play a D chord like this, right? Well, that's how you'd play. That's a ukulele chord as well. Or here is. So the chord shapes that you already know as a guitar player you can use as a ukulele. And so for over 100 years, I mean, well over 100 years, because the ukulele was really born around the turn of the century, okay? So it's only been around for about 125 years, give or take. So this has been an instrument that a lot of people have used to learn, and then they can parlay that, like where you lay your fingers and stuff, you can use that with guitar. So you can play a guitar first, like a lot of people do, and then pick up a ukulele, and once you tune it, boom, you're right at home. You kind of already pick up the patterns and so on. So now a soprano ukulele, as you can see, it's of course smaller. The smaller size is going to give it a bright, hopefully you can hear that all right. It's got a bright, lively little sound. It's gentle. It's fun. Okay, it's just fun. And that's what ukuleles are all about. We live in a very mobile society. Honestly, it's kind of one of those things. You can take a ukulele with you anywhere. I've never heard of anybody really offending someone with a ukulele. Okay. But with a uke, it's the kind of thing where you can chop out your basic chords, and it's easy for people to then layer whatever they want to on top of. So for creators, it's an excellent way to kind of get started with music and to have some fun with it, okay? Now, the next size up after a soprano is called a concert ukulele. Now, I brought one of those with me as well. I'm going to set this one down. So this is a concert ukulele. Now, the concert ukulele is a little more than an inch longer than a soprano. But contrary to popular belief, they are tuned exactly the same. All three sizes that I brought with me today, the tuning is not different at all, even though the scale or the length of the instrument is slightly longer, okay? So I get that question all the time, because people naturally think that, well, it's smaller, it should be tuned higher, and then the bigger it is, and so on. That's not the case. So the concert ukulele, what you hear difference-wise in the sound, okay? And I know it's kind of hard to tell because I'm yammering in between. But because the concert body is a little bit bigger, the physical, sound box, and the scale length is slightly longer, it has a little bit of a more robust sound to it. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a couple of strums on this. Then I'm going to go back to the soprano so you can hear the difference, okay? Now, I don't know if you can hear the difference. Well, I can hear it here. It is nuanced, but the soprano is a little bit livelier. It's a little brighter. So depending on the tone that you're going for or the size of person you are, one size might suit you more than another one. So the soprano is the traditional size of a ukulele, but the concert, being slightly longer scale, okay, you can see it's about an inch longer, is a lot more popular with some people who might be a little bit taller stature, or for people who just think that they feel a little cramped with the size of the soprano. then there, of course, there are people that just go, I like all of them, and I just like the different tones. And so they may have a song or a style that they play. That they want that little deeper sound. And so they choose one instrument over another. Okay, so let me see here. We got some comments coming in. You know what? Stephen, thank you so much for commenting. Stephen West chimed in. And of course, what did he say? I always think of Tiny Tim when I hear a uke. And we have mentioned that already, Stephen. I appreciate you pointing that out. And Tiny Tim, as much as I wouldn't say I'm a Tiny Tim fan, but you could almost credit Tiny Tim for ruining the popularity of the ukulele back in the 1960s. Because really, the uke was very popular in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Every house had a piano at grandma's house, and a lot of times they had a ukulele. They would sell little plastic ukuleles in stores. There would be even programs where if you bought the sheet music for Hawaiian uke music, they would give you a ukulele for free as part of the correspondence course. So ukes were hugely popular in American culture all the way up through the 1960s. Then the Beatles hit, and ironically, someone told me, now again, I got to verify this because I wasn't alive back then, but someone told me that before the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan, because it was a variety show, that there was someone who played the ukulele before that. I don't really know if that's true. If anybody was alive in '64 and watched that and can verify that comment or not, it'd be cool to know. But someone told me that the uke was so popular that there was someone who did a ukulele act, and then when the Beatles came on, history was made. But remember, if you play a ukulele, you can segue what you know to a guitar and vice versa. Another interesting thing, just to kind of chime in with the Beatles, did you know that George Harrison was a huge ukulele fan? And he was actually a part of a British club called the George Formby Society. And that was a ukulele club. Okay, so we got some more comments coming in. Stephen chimed in again and says, what are uke strings made of? Original ukulele strings, like original violin and so on strings, would have been made from some sort of, I guess you just use the term gut, which just means dried animal intestine, but modern day uke strings are almost always made of some sort of fluorocarbon, i.e. Nylon. So they're effectively like higher pitched classical guitar strings. And you can get different brands that are slightly different. But honestly, we carry Martin strings, D'Addario, and the differences in the tone are nuanced. They're all really good quality. So just come down, buy a pack of Martin, soprano, or whatever gauge strings you need, and they'll be great. Okay, so then we've got Robert Hazard. I think I should get a ukulele. You know what, Robert? I think you should get a ukulele too. Because I don't think I've heard anybody play Van Halen covers on a ukulele. And Robert Hazard is the Eddie Van Halen expert. And if anyone's going to do Eddie Van Halen on ukulele, it'd be Robert. Yeah, he could do all that stuff. I can't. Okay, so I've got another ukulele size, and this ukulele size is probably my personal favorite, okay? Because for anyone who, if you can't tell through the TV screen, because I from what I've heard, the TV screen adds 10 pounds, but looking at myself, I think it adds many more than that. But I'm a big guy, okay? So a lot of these ukes feel small. I mean, they are small, but the largest uke that I brought with me today was the one I started playing, and that is the tenor ukulele. The tenor ukulele, like I mentioned earlier, is tuned exactly the same as all the rest of them. But it has a warmer sound. You can see it's a little more swollen tone. I don't know. I think that the size, the feel of this scale is the most comfortable for me. But again, I can hear the tone difference, which I hope you guys can hear it too. Because with the different tone, you'll be inspired to play different songs, right, with different tone instruments. So like, for example, you've heard like with guitar, oh, that's a country sounding guitar because it's you know. So that country sound is often personified with like a bright, staccato tone. And then bluesy is usually a creamy sound, right? So the same could be with your ukulele. If you've got a creamy sounding uke, you might play different stuff. Okay, so we've got a very intuitive young man who said, Eddie Van Halen was a rock and roll musician. Ukuleles are good for cute, fun music, not extreme and edgy music. Also, it's the camera that adds 10 pounds. Well, Gibson, one thing that I can tell that you're a young man by the comment, because you can be edgy with any kind of music, okay? Because whether it's edgy or not usually has more to do with the message than it does with the tone. Because I'll tell you what, you can play real chunky, monkey, heavy guitar stuff and sing about sunshine, flowers, and hugging your grandma. Or I can play extremely offensive stuff with a light and lively ukulele. Really, it's edgy. It has to do with the message, not the tone. But I get your sentiment. Okay, also, we've got Dale Prince. Again, Dale's a very talented musician. I surely go back that far and was watching the night the Beatles came on, but don't remember the uke. Well, Dale, if you remember the entire show, as I said, I read it and I heard that rumor for a long time and so on. Okay, and then we got, all the way from Florida. Wow, we got viewers from all over this continent. It's Mr. Blanton. Are you really going to pull out a Mike Marshall Bach invention on uke tonight? Brave. I don't think so. First of all, Bach, his favorite instrument to compose for was the organ, not the ukulele. The ukulele didn't exist back then. But I'll tell you what, I will play some Ohio players for you. No. Oh, Jimbo chimed in. Okay. So Jimbo Knowlton says, let's say here. Let's see. Oh, I don't see Jimbo's comment. Okay, here. It says... Oh, let me get Jimbo's comment. I apologize. I want to make sure that I get everybody's comment. It's alive and well in the music scene down here in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I'll tell you what. Oh, what now? Oh, I'm sorry. My grandfather took it up at Navy at Hawaii. It is still it's very relevant. And honestly, that's another great point, Jimbo, and thank you so much for bringing that out. We all know what happened in 1941 when a naval base was attacked in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. So there has been a U.S. presence in Hawaii even before it was a state in 1959. And so a lot of servicemen and women who served in Hawaii would come back with things like ukuleles because they just loved that bit of culture and so on. No different than if you have servicemen and women who might serve in Germany, Turkey, Korea, or Japan. They would come over with bits of that culture, and the ukulele was one of those things. So that's a great point, Jimbo, and I appreciate you chiming in on that.
Mitchell said play Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Play Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Well, I'll tell you what, that song was popularized by... It was popularized by the Wizard of Oz, thank you. But it was popularized by a guy named Israel, and it's a very long and traditional Hawaiian name that I feel uncomfortable pronouncing it. But his first name was Israel, and he was a very large guy, so I got that in common with him. But it was such a sad song about that. He did an amazing job of this song. And then he tragically passed away. So he didn't really even get to see the impact that his song had. But, Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a very straightforward song on a ukulele, at least the version I learned, which is just a few chords. You start off with, it's the 3rd fret, I believe this is called a C chord. And then, I guess as a guitar player would say, like a D chord. Then like a C chord on a guitar. And then back to that G. Back to that C. Back to the G. C. D. Now I know if was ukulele players watching this, they're really being triggered at me calling out guitar chords and watching this. I want to tell you, I sincerely apologize. I'm one of these, like so many else, a guitar player first, but realize how cool a ukulele can be with these guitar chords. So I know that they're really, you just need the chart, okay? You need the chart and it'll tell you the right chords. But as far as Somewhere Over the Rainbow, it's only 4 chords and it's a super cool song. And so really his rendition was all about the passion that he had with it, because he was doing all these beautiful again, he's way better at that than me. So definitely check that one out. Now, Robert also chimed in. I love to see Roy Clark on a uke. That guy could play anything with strings on it. You know, he really could. Roy Clark was an amazing artist. So, but the whole point with, us sharing these videos and trying to educate you guys on different things is because we get so many people that come into the shop, they look at things and we try to find solutions, okay? So we're all musicians, we're all trying to keep the craft going, and really there's nothing more important than culture, okay? It's true. If you really think about it, if you go back 100 years, 1,000 years, we remember the art, we remember the culture. We don't remember what kind of silly political bantering was going on at the time. Really? We don't. So the truth of the matter is that what we're doing is very important, and you guys are part of our culture. And so when you come into the store and you look at all these different instruments, whether they be a ukulele, a guitar, any number of different things, if it's something simple that I can teach you guys about and show you to appreciate and enjoy and forward the craft, especially in our area being so musical, that's what we're all about. But a ukulele is a really neat thing. Now think about another cool thing with ukulele. We have a lot of people who might be a papa or grandma or something that wants to get something for their little 4 or 5-year-old grandson, right? And they go, well, he wants to play guitar like his daddy. That's great. I've got 2 children, and they were once young. But one thing about a guitar with 6 strings, and they're steel most of the time, okay, is that they can be a little tender on small fingers. A ukulele, however, being nylon strings, is very simple to press down. The chords you can often teach a young person with just 1 finger and strumming. So it can be a counting and simple exercise, just counting and strumming. So it's something that a very young person can learn easy. And like I mentioned multiple times now, you can take everything that you learn from a ukulele and you can move it over to a guitar. So everything you use on a uke, you can use on a guitar, which means it makes a wonderful instrument for someone who's small, young, looking to get into to play. In the same right, we live in such a mobile society, if you want something you can just take with you on vacation, like you were mentioning about how popular they are in Gulf Shores, they are very popular because it's kind of bulky to carry a guitar, but it doesn't take anything to pack a ukulele in your bag. So these are the kind of things that just fun playing on the beach, playing around, maybe a college campus, anywhere. A ukulele is a wonderful solution for making music and so on. Now with ukuleles, the last thing I'll go ahead and say is that ukuleles can get expensive, but generally speaking, ukuleles are very affordable. The 3 that I brought today, Not a single one. Even this one here, which is a pretty fancy one, I don't mind saying. This one's made by Breedlove. Breedlove makes some phenomenal quality guitars, mandolins, and other things. This guy here doesn't even cost $300. Or is it $400? I can't even remember. But it's not expensive. And this one features a built-in pickup, a cutaway, this beautiful abalone inlay along the sides. It is not a costly instrument, even though you would really think that it would be. There are some iconic companies like Martin, for example, that make ukuleles as well. Although those can be a little more expensive, most of the time they start around the $300 mark. So they're not overly out of reach for people. But most of our ukuleles in our store are less than $200, with a lot of them being only around $50. So it's something that no one has an excuse to say, well, I can't afford a ukulele. No. A uke is a perfect instrument for anyone who just wants to kind of dip their toe into having fun and playing some music. And again, they're social, they're fun, they're mobile. What's not to love? So now, long story short, we just wanted to kind of share this with you and let you know that we always have a wide variety of things, and there's never a day that we probably don't have at least 20 or 30 ukuleles, if not more, at the shop. So if you're in the neighborhood and you are looking for something fun to do or want just to add a different layer to your craft, you need to come down to Main Stage and check out some ukuleles. And I want to thank Brian so much for the idea of featuring ukuleles on the show. We have ukulele chord charts, ukulele songbooks. There's all sorts of ways you can get into it. So come on down and check them out.